Let's be real for a second. It's 2 in the morning and you get that alert. Your main production account, it's compromised. So what's your first move? What's your second? In a real security incident, every single second is critical, and panic is definitely not a strategy. That's exactly why today we're going to break down the AWS playbook for this exact scenario, AWS Security Incident Response. We're going to walk through how this service can be your expert partner when things really go wrong.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get a handle on what this service actually is. Then we'll cover the super important prep work you got to do to get it running. After that, we dive right into the heart of the action, the response lifecycle itself. And finally, we'll see how you manage all the chaos connected to your other tools and, most importantly, learn from it all so you get stronger for next time. All right, so what is this thing at its core? Well, think of it as a pre-built, expert-led framework for one of the most stressful jobs in tech. Instead of scrambling, trying to figure out what to do during an attack, it gives you a clear, standardized process to follow. This service covers the whole shebang, from preparing before anything ever happens, to responding right in the heat of the moment, to recovering after the fact. And it's built for the really nasty stuff, ransomware, account takeovers, you name it. But here's the real kicker. This isn't just a piece of software. You get a direct line to the AWS Customer Incident Response Team, or CIRT. These are the actual experts AWS uses to defend its own stuff, and now they're on your team. And this is super important. AWS didn't just invent this out of thin air. The entire service is built on the industry gold standard for this stuff, the NIST framework. Now, why does that matter? It means the process is proven, it's predictable, and it lines up with the compliance standards your business probably already follows. It's all about bringing structure to the middle of chaos. Okay, so the idea is solid, but a response plan is pretty useless if it's not actually ready to go when you need it. So, how do you set yourself up for success? Well, that brings us to the preparation phase, all that critical work you've got to do before an incident ever happens. Onboarding kicks off with some basics. AWS Organizations is a must, since this service has to protect your entire cloud estate. You'll also want GuardDuty and Security Hub turned on everywhere to feed it threat data. But then you get to the most critical decision you'll make. You have to explicitly authorize the CIRT to take proactive containment actions. This is off by default for a good reason. You are literally giving AWS permission to modify your environment during a crisis. It's a very conscious choice to trade some control for some incredible speed. With all that prep work done, you're ready. So what happens when that alarm finally goes off for real? Now we get into the heart of the service, the end-to-end response lifecycle, from that very first alert all the way to a full recovery. And here it is, that whole process mapped perfectly to that NIST framework we talked about. We just covered preparation. Next up is detection and analysis, where you spot the problem. Then the absolutely crucial containment phase to stop the bleeding. After that, eradication, to kick the attacker out for good. And finally, recovery, to safely bring everything back online. So detection starts by pulling in signals from everywhere. It's grabbing findings from AWS's own tools like GuardDuty and Security Hub. It also connects with third-party EDR tools. That's endpoint detection and response from folks like CrowdStrike. Just think of those as security agents on your servers. The service funnels all this data together, automatically filters out all the noise, and for the really critical stuff, it will proactively open a case and get you and the AWS experts on it right away. Now for the moment of truth, containment. If you've given them permission, the CIRT can take immediate, powerful actions. For a compromised server, they're not just going to shut it down and destroy all the evidence. No, they'll surgically isolate it with network rules. For a stolen user credential, they'll wrap it in a policy that stops it from doing anything else. Each action is like a digital tourniquet. It stops the bleeding instantly, it's completely reversible, and it preserves the crime scene for the investigation. Okay, the immediate threat is contained. Now, the chaos of communication starts. How do you keep your legal team, your engineers, and the AWS experts all on the same page? That's where the central hub for your response comes in, the case management system. You basically have two flavors here. Think of an AWS-supported case as pulling the big red emergency cord. It directly pages the AWS experts, and you're guaranteed to hear from them within 15 minutes. A self-managed case, on the other hand, is like your own private notebook for tracking something internally. AWS isn't involved at all. Inside this case portal, everything is designed for secure, collaborative work. You can add watchers, like your legal team, so they can follow along in real time. And here's a really clever feature.
To give them access, the system generates a security policy that grants them the absolute bare minimum permissions needed to see that one specific case, and nothing else. It's all about keeping everyone in the loop without accidentally expanding your security risk. Of course, no security tool lives on an island. A huge part of doing this right is how it connects to everything else in your security world. So, how does AWS SIR fit in with the other tools and workflows you already have? Let's take a look.
You know, the core philosophy here is captured perfectly in the documentation. It says the goal is to integrate with your existing framework rather than replacing it. In other words, this service isn't trying to come in and rip out all your current security tools. It's designed to be the connective tissue that makes them all work faster and smarter, together. And this is what that looks like in the real world. For example, a new case gets created, and you can use EventBridge to automatically fire off a notification to your Slack channel, while at the same time triggering a Lambda function to page your on-call engineer. You can sync case details back and forth with your Jira or ServiceNow tickets. The whole goal is to plug this system directly into the automated workflows your team is already using. The response isn't over just because the bad guy's gone. The final, and you could argue the most important phase of this whole life cycle, is about learning from what happened so you can stop it from happening again. This is where reporting and continuous improvement come in. To help you learn and get better, the service automatically generates these monthly PDF reports. And these aren't just boring logs of what happened. They are packed with key metrics designed to answer the big questions. How fast are we spotting threats? How well is our containment working? This is the hard data you need to justify security investments and to really harden your defenses. Now, this chart right here really tells the whole story. It visualizes the kind of metrics you'd see in one of those reports. On the far left, you've got this huge bar of all the raw security findings that came in, just a massive amount of noise. The middle bar shows how many of those were automatically archived by the service's smart logic. And then that tiny little bar on the right, that's the fraction that actually needed a human from your team to investigate. This is the whole signal from noise value proposition in a single picture.
So when you boil it all down, what do you really have? You have a service that takes the chaos of thousands of alerts and distills it down to the handful that actually matter. It gives your team a clear, collaborative playbook to follow during a crisis, and it backs them up with some of the best experts in the world. It's all about letting your team focus their limited time on fighting actual fires, not just chasing false alarms. And that really brings us to our final thought. The frameworks and the tools, just like the one we've walked through, are more accessible than ever before. They give you a clear path to get ready. The only question left is, are you actually prepared for the inevitable? Having a plan is one thing, but having that plan automated, integrated, and backed by experts when you need them most, well, that's a whole other level of preparation.